Welcome back, everyone, to the deep dive. Today, we're taking you on, well, quite an exploration, a deep dive into a book that is genuinely remarkable. Our mission is to really get into Shashi Tharoor's The Great Indian Novel. It first hit the shelves back in 1989. Now, this isn't just a novel. Think of it more as a bold, really witty, and deeply satirical retelling of India's freedom struggle and, all the politics that came after independence. And the truly brilliant part, he does this by mapping modern Indian history onto the ancient epic, the Mahabharata. It's like a political satire wrapped inside an epic story, an audacious idea, really clever and incredibly insightful. It definitely makes you look at history and myth in a whole new way. That title alone grabbed me immediately.
Oh, absolutely. And what's fascinating right from the start is the title itself, The Great Indian Novel. It's such a playful, deliberate nod to the great American novel, isn't it? That phrase suggests, work trying to capture the whole spirit of a nation. So Tharoor, by using it, he's signaling this huge ambition right away to write the defining modern Indian story, and one that crucially fuses myth, history, and the, let's face it, often messy reality of politics. It's a bold statement of intent from page one.
That's a perfect setup because the core idea is incredibly audacious. You mentioned merging the Mahabharata with modern politics. But how does he actually, pull that off? How does it avoid feeling just like a gimmick or too academic? What's the deeper idea behind this history as myth, myth as history thing he does?
Well, the magic is in how seamlessly he blends them. It's not just a clever party trick. It's really an exploration of how deeply these ancient myths shape a nation's identity, how it understands its own past. He uses the Mahabharata, an epic, where ideas like dharma, duty, righteousness, moral choices, are constantly being debated to show us that these aren't just old stories. They're fundamental narratives. They give us a lens to interpret what's happening now. It suggests that our modern political struggles, they often echo these, universal human dilemmas that have played out in myths for centuries. So history as myth means we see our past through these epic stories, and myth as history means those stories feel incredibly real, shaping today.
Right, so it's more than just retelling. It's digging into how stories define us. And while that sounds super entertaining, and believe me, with Tharoor's wit, it absolutely is. It's also a book that it asks for your attention. It rewards readers who like digging into layers, who enjoy figuring things out, maybe who don't mind a bit of intellectual work. You definitely get back what you invest. Okay, so that's the big picture, but the real genius, I guess, is in the details, the execution. How does Tharoor actually make these ancient figures walk and talk like modern leaders? How does he map the characters so effectively?
This is where it gets really fun, and he does it with such precision. He reimagines these iconic Mahabharata characters as key figures from modern Indian history. The parallels are direct, sometimes startlingly clear. So, for instance, take Dhritarashtra, the blind king, right? His inability to control his ambitious sons ultimately leads to disaster, the ruin of his kingdom. Tharoor reimagines him as Jawaharlal Nehru, India's first prime minister. And that parallel lets him explore Nehru's vision, but also maybe, some of the unintended consequences, the potential blind spots.
Wow, okay. That's quite a connection.
It is. And then you have the Pandavas, the five heroic brothers, the champions of Dharma fighting for their kingdom. They represent the leaders of the Indian National Congress movement, those key figures driving for independence. And their rivals, the Kauravas, the 100 power-hungry cousins driven by greed and ambition. They symbolize the various political opponents and challenges that emerged from partition onwards.
Makes sense. What about Karna? He's such a complex character in the epic.
Yes, Karna. A really powerful transformation there. The tragic hero, born royal but raised lower down, always struggling with identity and loyalty because he's sort of marginalized. He becomes a potent symbol of the marginalized voices within modern India. That parallel really captures the complex social dynamics, the search for belonging within the new nation. It's not subtle, maybe, but it's very clever, often quite funny, too.
That's fascinating. The character mapping sounds incredibly rich. But does it go beyond just the characters? Does Tharoor connect specific events too? Like, how does he handle massive historical moments like, say, the Partition or the emergency? Are those reflected in the epic framework?
Oh, absolutely. It's not just about who's who. It's about what happens when. The parallels extend to major historical events. You see reflections of the entire freedom movement, the early struggles, the path to independence, and the partition, the incredibly traumatic division of India and Pakistan finds a powerful echo in the devastating Kurukshetra War of the Mahabharata, which tears families apart and wipes out a generation.
That's heavy.
It is. And then the period of the emergency in the 1970s under Indira Gandhi when civil liberties were suspended. That's brilliantly depicted through parts of the epic that really question justice, power, and executive overreach.
Mm.
And all the various post-independence challenges, the political games, the economic issues, they're all mirrored, often with biting satire, through the timeless struggles in the epic.
And you mentioned a narrator.
Yes, exactly. To really hammer home the epic style, the narrator is Vedvyas, named after the sage who supposedly composed the original Mahabharata. And he's dictating his story to his secretary, Ganapathy, just like the original Vyasa dictated to the elephant-headed god Ganesha. It's this self-aware framing device that constantly reminds you you're reading an epic retelling of modern history. It's Tharoor having a bit of fun with the act of storytelling itself.
Okay, it sounds like an absolute intellectual feast. But beyond the clever structure and the parallels, let's get into the themes. What are the really deep insights this book offers? What makes it more than just, a clever exercise?
Right, because once you get past that initial aha moment of recognizing who's who, the book really opens up. First, it's a masterclass in satire of Indian politics. Tharoor's wit is razor sharp. He critiques everything from the colonial legacy to post-independence corruption, the compromises, the power plays. He shows how the moral dilemmas of ancient kings, well, they look uncannily similar to the political maneuvering of modern leaders. It suggests that the thirst for power hasn't changed much. And he doesn't hold back on figures like Mahatma Gandhi or Indira Gandhi, examining their influence, their rule, often making you chuckle even while thinking about really serious history.
So humor as a way into serious critique.
Exactly. And second, it digs deep into power and morality. The Mahabharata is obsessed with dharma duty, righteousness, ethics. Tharoor uses that framework to scrutinize the tough ethical choices leaders face. You see how easily even heroic figures can get tangled up in moral quandaries, compromising their dharma. It's a timeless lesson applied directly to India's leaders. It makes you ask, what is right in governance? What's the cost of power?
And national identity. That must be huge, too.
Immense. That's the third big theme, national identity. The novel explores India's constant balancing act, tradition versus modernity, unity versus diversity. It shows brilliantly that India isn't just one thing. It's this complex mosaic, always negotiating its past to shape its future, and doing it through the lens of these powerful ancient stories.
Okay, and you mentioned his writing style earlier.
Yes, that's the fourth crucial element, Tharoor's language play. His prose is just dazzling. It's witty. It's packed with allusions, irony, puns. And he does this amazing thing where he mixes these sort of formal, sometimes Sanskritized phrases with very contemporary English. It perfectly mirrors India's own linguistic blend, its cultural hybridity. It's like a dance in the language itself. It does make it demanding, yes, but incredibly rewarding. Adds a whole other level of enjoyment.
That depth, combined with the language, it sounds truly compelling. But let's think about the impact. Why is this book still talked about, still relevant, decades after 1989? What did it achieve?
Well, its reception was pretty phenomenal right away. People recognized its originality, its brilliance. It really established Shashi Tharoor not just as, a diplomat or politician, but as a major literary force, someone who could blend history, myth, satire in this really unique way. And it's endured. It's still considered one of the most inventive novels in Indian English literature. You see it taught in university courses all the time, literature, political science even. That shows its lasting power, both culturally and academically.
Quite a legacy indeed. So, thinking about our listener now, what are the real aha moments? Who should really make a point of reading this? What specific benefits will you, the listener, get from this deep dive?
Okay, good question. If you're someone who loves Indian epics, the Mahabharata, the Ramayana, you will just love seeing how Tharoor plays with these characters, makes the mythology feel so urgent and modern. It's like meeting old friends in completely new, sometimes challenging situations.
Right, breathes new life into them.
Totally. Now, if you're more into history and politics, especially Indian history, this book gives you such a fresh perspective. The freedom struggle, the trauma of partition, that violent split post-independence politics. It connects the historical facts with this deeper cultural symbolism. Makes it unforgettable. It really shows you the human drama behind the big events.
And for satire fans.
Oh, they'll be in heaven. Tharoor's critique of corruption, of power games, of leadership flaws. It's incredibly sharp, but delivered with such wit, using the myth as this amazing lens. You find yourself laughing, but also thinking really hard about the underlying truths.
And for someone maybe less familiar with India?
For global readers just curious about India, it's a fantastic entry point. It's entertaining, witty, but also profoundly insightful. It offers a window into India's politics, its culture, its mythology, in a way that, frankly, textbooks just can't capture. It helps bridge that gap between the ancient and the contemporary.
Okay, let's really nail down those core benefits for the listener. What are the tangible takeaways, the things that really shift your understanding?
Okay, firstly, definitely a deeper understanding of Indian politics. You get these really memorable takes on the freedom movement heroes, the difficult period of the emergency, that time of suspended civil rights, Nehru's era, Indira Gandhi's rise. And it really helps you grasp the human cost of partition. It's history told in a way that sticks, that feels human.
And the humor aspect.
That's the second point, learning through humor and satire. History and politics can be dense, right? Heavy stuff. Tharoor's satire makes it accessible, engaging. You see these political antics rooted in epic stories. And it's often funny, but it also encourages you to look critically at power, at authority, realizing some patterns are timeless.
Makes sense. What else?
Third, a real appreciation of India's cultural complexity. The way he weaves myth and history together. It just highlights how deeply connected India's culture, politics, and identity are. You really see how these ancient stories aren't just history. They're actively shaping modern values, modern society. The past is truly present.
It sounds like it makes you think more critically, too.
Absolutely. That's the fourth benefit. Boosting critical thinking. The book is so layered. Symbolism, wordplay, parody. Engaging with it just naturally sharpens your analytical skills. You learn to look beyond the surface, to question narratives both in the book and maybe in the real world, too.
Then
Finally, and this is crucial, it prompts moral and ethical reflection. By drawing these parallels between political leaders and Mahabharata characters, with all their flaws and dilemmas, it forces you to think about morality, about leadership, about duty, that dharma concept again, and the consequences of wielding power. These are lessons that are relevant everywhere, not just in India, urging us to consider the dharma of our own leaders today.
So it really sounds like the great Indian novel is a true masterpiece. It entertains, yes, but it also educates, it provokes thought. A deeply rewarding read for anyone wanting to understand India, its past, its present, its stories. It really opens your eyes to how powerful narratives can be.
And that brings up a final thought, maybe a question for you, the listener, to ponder. As you think about this amazing fusion of myth and modern politics in the Indian context, take a moment to consider. What are the ancient stories, the founding myths, the dominant narratives of your own country? How might they still be subtly shaping your nation's politics, its identity, its debates today? Are there echoes of old epics playing out, maybe in ways you haven't really thought about before?
That's a fantastic question. A really great thought experiment to understand our own worlds better. Well, we certainly hope this deep dive has inspired you to seek out Shashi Tharoor's The Great Indian Novel. Keep exploring history, myth, and the incredible power of satire. Thanks so much for joining us today. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.